Hey, yes, sir. Think and Grow Rich, week three. Week three, chat. If it's your first time ever showing up to my chat to listen to me read one of these chapters, um, what we do here, just to go ahead and go over this real fast and quick. Um, we read every chapter for a week straight, right? But we got a new setup now. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we're gonna just read the chapter, have a slight go over of what we just read. But on Thursdays and Fridays, what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually like grab some material from that chapter and then start applying that material from that chapter. But that's why we're going to be doing these reads for a week straight for every single chapter, for a week straight per chapter. You feel me? So hope you enjoy. I hope you got your pencils and papers, take your notes, get ready for Thursdays and Fridays when we actually do the exercises from the book. You feel me? And without further ado, Think and Grow Rich, week three. Week three. Also, if I ever start reading too fast, please let me know. If I start speeding up, let me know. I'll slow it down. If you can't hear me, let me know. I'll try to enunciate my words better. I'm from the South, so please forgive me for my Southern accent in some places. You feel me? But if you're here just for a good read and some good listening to, and you want to clean up or do whatever you want to do in the background, go ahead and do that. But it's chapter 3, week 3 of Think and Grow Rich. Faith, visualizing and believing in attainment of desire, the second step to riches. All right. So faith. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into a spiritual equivalent, and transmits it into the infinite intelligence. As in the case of prayer. Hold up, chat. My TV just turned itself up in the background. My TV just turned its own volume up. Now it's gonna be muted. Hey! Okay, I'm back. Do you guys TVs also phantom turn up sometimes? Nose itch. Oh, my nose itch. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Colonel. I don't know how to say your first name, so I'm gonna just say Colonel. What's up? Welcome to the chat. What we're doing is reading week 3, chapter 3 of Think and Grow Rich. This is the first day of today's read, first day of this week's read. We're doing this for 5 days in a row. What's good with you, Susie? Welcome to the chat. What's up, Arthur? How you doing? Welcome to the chat. Don't forget to double tap the screen. Don't forget to do this twice for me. I appreciate that. Welcome to the chat. If you don't know, appreciate that like, We're doing week 3 of Think and Grow Rich. We're gonna be doing this chapter for a week straight. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or just reads with a little bit of talking about it. Thursday and Friday, or days where we actually apply what we read. So take notes and get ready for Thursday and Friday. But Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday are just reads. So if you want to stay and listen to the read, maybe hear something that may help you with something, by all means, double tap the screen and stay tuned, baby. Now, let's do this one more time. Faith, visualizing, and believing in the attainment of desire. And if I ever start reading too fast, let me know. I am a little country. I have an accent, so just let me know. The second step to riches. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translated into Alfie, baby. Thank you. Translate into a spiritual equivalent and transmit it to the infinite intelligence. Alfie, baby, stop doing that. As in the case of prayer, faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of all the major positive emotions. When the three are blended, they have the effect of coloring the vibration of thought in such a way that it instantly teaches and reaches the subconscious mind. Word is changed into a spiritual equivalent, the only form that it induces a response from the infinite intelligence. Love and faith. Alfie. He's doing it on purpose. Love it. Do you see this chat? Alfie. Love and faith are psychic, related to our spiritual side. Sex is purely biological and related only to the physical. The mixing or blending of these three emotions has the effect of opening a direct line of communication between the finite, thinking mind, and infinite intelligence. I'm not sure what you're referring to, chariot, Jumid. Faith is a state of mind that may be induced or created by affirmation or repeated instructions to the subconscious mind through the principle of autosuggestion. As an illustration, consider the purpose for which you are, presumably, reading this book. The object is, naturally, to acquire the ability to transmute the intangible thought, impulse, or desire into its physical counterpart, money. By following the instructions laid down in Chapter 3 on autosuggestion and Chapter 11 on the subconscious mind, you may convince the subconscious that you believe you will receive what you ask for. It will act upon that belief, passing back to you in the form of faith, followed by definite plans for procuring a goal. The method by which one develops faith, where it does not already exist, is extremely difficult to describe. Almost as difficult, in fact, as it will be to describe the color of red to a blind man. How you doing, Johnny? Welcome to the chat, man. Faith is a state of mind that you may develop at will after you have mastered the 13 steps to riches in this book. Making repeated affirmations to your subconscious mind is the only known method of developing the emotion of faith voluntarily. Perhaps the meaning may be clearer through the following explanation as to the way people sometimes become criminals. Stated in the words of a famous criminologist, when people first come into contact with crime, they abhor it. If they remain in contact with a crime for a time, they become accustomed to it and endure it. If they remain in contact with it long enough, they finally embrace it and become influenced by it. This is the equivalent of saying that any impulse of thought which is repeatedly passed onto the subconscious mind is finally accepted and acted upon. The subconscious mind proceeds to translate this impulse into its physical equivalent by the most practical procedure available. In connection with this, consider again the statement, all thoughts which have been emotionalized, given feeling, and mixed with faith, begin immediately to translate themselves into its physical equivalent or counterpart. The emotions or the feeling portion of thoughts are the factors that give thoughts vitality, life, and action. The emotions of faith, love, and sex, when mixed with any thought impulse, give it greater action than any of these emotions can do singly. Not only thought impulses which have been mixed with faith, but also those that have been mixed with any of the positive emotions or any of the negative emotions may reach and influence the subconscious mind. From this statement, you will understand that the subconscious mind will translate a thought impulse of a negative or destructive nature into its physical equivalent just as readily as it will act upon thoughts impulses of a positive or constructive nature. This accounts for the strange phenomenon so many millions of people experience, referred to as misfortune or bad luck. Millions of people believe themselves doomed to poverty and failure because of some strange force over which they believe they have no control. They are the creators of their own misfortunes because of this negative belief, which is picked up by the subconscious mind and translated into its physical equivalent. This is an appropriate place at which to suggest again that you may benefit by passing on to your subconscious mind any desire that you wish translated into its physical or monetary equivalent. In a state of expectancy or belief that would be the transmutation will actually take place. Your belief or faith is the element that determines the action of your subconscious mind. There is nothing to hinder you from deceiving your subconscious mind when giving it instructions through autosuggestion. As I deceive my son's subconscious mind to make this deceit more realistic, conduce yourself just as you would do if you were already in possession of the material thing which you are demanding. When you call upon your subconscious mind, the subconscious mind will transmute it into its physical equivalent by the most direct and practical media available. Any order given to it in a state of belief or faith that the order will be carried out. Surely enough has been stated to give a starting point from which one may, through experiment or in practice, acquire the ability to mix faith with any order to give into the subconscious mind. Perfection will come through practice. It cannot come by merely reading instructions. If it is true that one may become a criminal by association with crime, and it is a known fact, it is equally true. I'm getting a lot of messages right now. It is equally true that one may develop faith by voluntary suggestion to the subconscious mind that one has faith. The mind comes finally to take on the nature of the influences that dominate it. Understand this truth, and you will know why it is essential for you to encourage the positive emotions as dominating forces of your mind, and discourage and eliminate negative emotions. A mind dominated by positive emotions becomes a favorable abode for the state of mind known as faith. A mind so dominated may, at will, give the subconscious mind instructions, which it will accept and act upon immediately. And now this part of the chapter is called, Faith is a State of Mind, which may be induced by autosuggestion. All through the ages, religious leaders have admonished struggling humanity to have faith in this, that, and other dogma or creed, but they have failed to tell people how to have faith. They have not stated that faith is a state of mind and that it may be induced by self-suggestion. In language any normal human being can understand, we will describe all that is known about the principle through which faith may be developed, where it does not already exist. Have faith in yourself, faith in the infinite. Before we begin, you should be reminded again that faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. The foregoing sentence is worth reading a second time, and a third, and a fourth. It is worth reading aloud. So let's do that one more time. Faith is the eternal elixir which gives life, power, and action to the impulse of thought. Faith is the starting point of all accumulation of riches. Faith is the basis of all miracles and mysteries that cannot be analyzed by the rules of science. Faith is the only known antidote to failure. Faith is the element, the chemical which, when mixed with prayer, gives one direct communication with infinite intelligence. Faith is the element that transforms the ordinary vibration of thought created by the finite mind of man into its spiritual equivalent. Faith is the only agency through which the cosmic force of the infinite intelligence can be harnessed and used. Every one of the foregoing statements is capable of proof. The proof is simple and easily demonstrated. It is wrapped up in the principle of autosuggestion. Let us center our attention, therefore, upon the subject of self-suggestion and find out what it is capable of achieving. It is a well-known fact that one comes finally to believe whatever one repeats to oneself, whether the statement be true or false. If a person repeats a lie over and over and over again, the lie will eventually be accepted as truth. Moreover, it will be believed to be true. Each one of us, chat, goodness gracious, I did just eat dinner, sorry. Each of us is what we are because of the dominating thoughts we permit to occupy our minds. Thoughts which are deliberately placed in our own mind and encouraged with sympathy, and with which are mixed with any one or more of the emotions that constitute the motivating forces. These forces direct and control our every movement, act, and deed. Thoughts which are mixed with any of the feelings or emotions constitute a magnetic force which attracts from the other vibrations of the ether other similar or related thoughts. A thought thus magnetized with emotion may be compared to the sea. I can't wait to put this one in practice with you all. Oh man, I can't wait to do this one with y'all. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, but a thought thus magnetized with emotion may be compared to a seed that, when planted in fertile soil, germinates, grows, and multiplies itself over and over and over again, until that one small seed becomes countless millions of seeds of the same brand. The ether is a great cosmic mass of eternal forces of vibration. It is made up of both destructive vibrations and constructive vibrations. It carries at all times vibrations of fear, poverty, disease, failure, misery, and vibrations of prosperity, health, success, and happiness. It is not this just as merely as it carries the sound of hundreds of other orchestrations of music and hundreds of other human voices, all of which maintain their individuality and means of identification through the medium of radio. From the great storehouse of the ether, the human mind is constantly attracting vibrations that harmonize with that which dominates the mind. Any thought, idea, plan, or purpose which one holds in one mind attracts from the vibrations of the ether a host of its relatives. It adds these relatives to its own force and grows until it becomes the dominating, motivated master of the individual in whose mind it has been housed. Hey! Now let us go back to the starting point and find out how the original seed of an idea, plan, or purpose may be planted in the mind. The information is easily conveyed. Any idea, plan, or purpose may be placed in the mind through repetition of thought. This is why you are asked to write out a statement of your major purpose or definite chief aim. Commit it to your memory and repeat it in audible words from chapter 2. Day after day until these vibrations of sound have reached your subconscious mind. We are what we are because of the vibrations of thoughts that we pick up and register through the stimuli of our daily environment. Resolve to throw off the influences of any unfortunate environment and build your own life to the order. Taking an inventory of mental assets and liabilities, you will discover that your greatest weakness is a lack of self-confidence. Ooh, this handicap can be surmounted and timidity translated into courage through the aid of the principle of autosuggestion. The application of this principle may be made through a simple arrangement of positive thought impulses stated in writing. Memorize and repeat it until they become a part of your working equipment of the subconscious faculty of your mind. Now we're going to read self-confidence formula. It's a couple steps. So let's read the formula. So step 1 to the self-confidence formula is, I know that I have the ability to achieve the object of my definite purpose in life. Therefore, I demand of myself persistent, continuous action towards its attainment, and I here and now promise to take such action. Step 2. I realize the dominating thoughts of my mind will eventually reproduce themselves into outward physical action and gradually transform themselves into physical reality. Therefore, I will concentrate my thoughts for 30 minutes daily upon the task of thinking of the person I intend to become, thereby creating in my mind a clear mental picture of that person. 3. I know through the principle of autosuggestion that any desire I persistently hold in my mind will eventually seek expression through some practical means of attaining the object. Therefore, I will devote 10 minutes daily to demanding of myself the development of self-confidence. Bars. 4. I have clearly written down a description of my definite chief aim in life. I will never stop trying until I have developed sufficient self-confidence for its attainment. 5. I fully realize that no wealth or position can long endure unless built upon truth and justice. Therefore, I will engage in no transaction that does not benefit all who it affects. I will succeed by attracting to myself the forces I wish to use and the cooperation of other people. I will induce others to serve me because of my willingness to serve others. I will eliminate hatred, envy, jealousy, selfishness, and cynicism by developing love for all humanity because I know that a negative attitude towards others can never bring me success. I will cause others to believe in me because I will believe in them and in myself. I will sign my name to this formula to commit it to memory and repeat it aloud once a day with full faith that it will gradually influence my thoughts and actions so that I will become a self-reliant and successful person. What's up, Kenny? Welcome back to the stream. Underpinning this formula is a law of nature that no one has yet been able to explain. It has baffled the scientists of all ages. Psychologists renamed it the law of autosuggestion and let it go at that. The name by which one calls this law is of little importance. The important fact is that it works for the glory and success of humankind if it is used constructively. If used destructively, on the other hand, it will destroy just as readily. In this statement may be found a significant truth. Those who go down in defeat and end their lives in poverty, misery, and distress do so because of negative application of the principle of autosuggestion. The cause may be found in the fact that all impulses of thought have a tendency to clothe themselves in their physical equivalent. The subconscious mind, the chemical laboratory in which all thought impulses are combined and made ready for translation into physical reality, makes no distinction between constructive and destructive thought impulses. It works with the material we feed it through our thought impulses. The subconscious mind will translate into reality a thought driven by fear just as readily as it would translate into a reality a thought driven by courage and faith. The pages of medical history are rich with illustrations of cases of suggested suicide. A person may commit suicide through negative suggestion just as effectively as by any other means. In the Midwestern City, a bank official named Joseph Grant borrowed a large sum of the bank's money without the consent of the directors. He lost the money through gambling. One afternoon, the bank examiner came and began to check the accounts. Grant left the bank and took a room in a local hotel. When they found him 3 days later, he was lying in bed, wailing and moaning, repeating over and over these words, "My God, this will kill me. I cannot stand the disgrace." In a short time, he was dead. The doctors pronounced the case one of mental suicide. Thus, electricity will turn the wheels of industry and provide useful service if used constructively, or snuff out life if wrongly used. So will the law of autosuggestion lead you to peace and prosperity, or down the valley of misery, failure, and death. It all depends on your degree of understanding and application of it. If you fill your mind with fear, doubt, and disbelief, and your ability to connect with and use the forces of the infinite intelligence, the law of autosuggestion will take this spirit of the unbelief and use it as a pattern which your subconscious mind will translate into its physical equivalent. I'm gonna slow down. Reading too fast. Into its physical equivalent. This statement is as true as a statement that 2 and 2 are 4. Like the wind that carries one ship east and another west, the law of autosuggestion will lift you up or pull you down, according to the way you set your cells of thought. The law of autosuggestion through which any person may rise is the altitudes of achievement that stagger the imagination, is well described in the following verse. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it is almost certain that you won't. If you think you'll lose, you lost. For out of the world, we find success begins with a person's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you are outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man, but sooner or late, the one who wins is the one who thinks he can. Observe the words which have been emphasized, and you will catch the deep meaning the poet had in mind. Somewhere in your makeup, perhaps in the cells of your brain, lies sleeping the seed of achievement if aroused and put into action. This will carry you to heights such as you may never have hoped to attain, just as the master musician may cause the most beautiful strains of music to pour forth from the strings of a violin, so may you arouse the genius which lies asleep in your brain, and cause it to drive you upward to whatever goal you may wish to achieve. Abraham Lincoln was a failure at everything he tried until he was well past the age of 40. He was a Mr. Nobody from nowhere until a great experience came into his life, aroused the sleeping genius within his heart and brain, and gave the world one of his really great men. That experience was mixed with the emotions of sorrow and love. It came to him through Anne Rutledge, the only woman he ever truly loved. It is a known fact that the emotions of love is closely akin to the state of mind known as faith. Love comes very near to translating one's thought impulses into their spiritual equivalent. During his research, the author discovered, from the analysis of the work and achievements of hundreds of men of outstanding accomplishment, that there was an influence of a woman's love behind every one of them. The emotion of love in the human heart and brain creates a favorable field of magnetic attraction. This causes an influx of higher and finer vibrations that are afloat in the ether. Oh, I want to come back to hit that one. That's going to come back. This one right here is going to come back. I'm gonna underline this real quick. 1 second, chat. It came through him, through the only woman he ever truly loved. It is a known fact that the emotion of love is close to state of mind as faith. Yes, sir. We're coming back to that one, chat. Love comes very near to translating one's thoughts, impulses into their spiritual equivalent. During his research, the author discovered, from the analysis of the work and achievements of hundreds of men of outstanding accomplishment, that there was an influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That's what I wanted to. The emotion of love in the human heart and brain creates a favorable field of magnetic attraction. This causes an influx of the higher and finer vibrations that are afloat in the ether. Let us consider the power of faith as it was demonstrated by a man well known to all civilization, Mahatma Gandhi of India. In this man, the world experienced one of the most astounding examples of the possibilities of faith. Gandhi wielded more potential power than any man living in his time, and this despite the fact that he had none of the orthodox tools of power, such as money, battleships, soldiers, and materials of warfare. Gandhi had no money, he had no home, he didn't even own a suit of clothes, but he did have power. How did he come by that power? He created it out of his understanding of the principle of faith and through his ability to translate that faith into the minds of 200 million people. Gandhi accomplished through the influence of faith something that the strongest military power on earth could not, and never will, achieve through soldiers and military equipment. He accomplished the astounding feat of influencing 200 million minds to coalesce and move in unison as a single mind, while other force on earth is that faith could do as much. In the mid-20th century, Martin Luther King, through his deep faith and his belief in human rights and dignity for all people, led men and women of all races, religions, and beliefs to join in his struggle for civil rights. His dream that people would not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of their character, has not yet been fully realized, but his work and his death have led to significant improvements in civil rights and impetus to keep fighting for their achievement. The watchword of the future will be human happiness and contentment. When this state of mind has been attained, the production will take care of itself more effectively than anything ever accomplished, where people did not and could not mix faith and individual interest with their labor. Because of the need for faith and cooperation in business and industry, it will be both interesting and profitable to analyze a particular event. This provides an excellent understanding of the method by which industrialists and leaders of business accumulate great fortunes by giving before they try to get. The event chosen for this illustration dates back to 1900, when the United States Steel Corporation was being formed. As you read the story, keep in mind these fundamental facts, and you will understand how the ideas have been converted into huge fortunes. First, the huge United States Steel Corporation was born in the mind of Charles M. Schwab, in the form of an idea he created through his imagination. Second, he mixed faith with his idea. Third, he formulated a plan for the transformation of his idea into physical and financial reality. Fourth, he put his plan into action with his famous speech at the University Club. Fifth, he applied and followed through on his plan with persistence and backed it with firm decision until it had been fully carried out. Sixth, he prepared the way for success by a burning desire for success. If you have often wondered how great fortunes are accumulated, this story of creation of the United States Steel Corporation will be enlightening. If you have any doubt that people can think and grow rich, this story should dispel that doubt, because in it you can plainly see the application of a major portion of the 13 principles described in this book. Now, John Lowell in the New York World Telegram, with whose courtesy it is reprinted here, dramatically told this astounding story of the power of an idea. And its title is called A Pretty After-Dinner Speech for $1 billion. When on the evening of December 12, 1900, some of the 80 nations' financial nobility gathered in the banquet hall of the University Club on Fifth Avenue to do honor to a young man from out of the West, not half a dozen of the guests realized they were to witness the most significant episode in American industrial history. J. Edward Simmons and Charles Stewart Smith, their hearts full of gratitude for the lavish hospitality bestowed on them by Charles M. Schwab during a recent visit to Pittsburgh, had arranged a dinner to introduce the 38-year-old Steele man to the Eastern Banking Society. But they didn't expect him to stampede the convention. They warned him, in fact, that the bosoms within New York stuffed shirts would not be responsible to the oratory, and that if he didn't want to bore the Steelmans and the Harrimans and the Vanderbilts, he had better limit himself to 15 or 20 minutes of polite vaporings and let it go at that. Even John Pierpont Morgan, sitting on the right hand of Schwab, as became his imperial dignity, intended to grace the banquet table with his presence only briefly. And so far as the press and public were concerned, the whole affair was of so little moment that no mention of it was found its way into the print the next day. So the two hosts and their distinguished guests ate their way through the usual 7 or 8 courses. Babe, I need you to get down. It's mad hard to read when you do this. Come on, baby. Go ahead. He bought 15 pounds on a light day, boy. So that was pretty heavy. Okay, but let's keep. I'm just joking. Okay. Okay, there we go. Through the usual 7 or 8 courses, there was little conversation, and what there was of it was restrained. Few of the bankers and brokers met Schwab, whose career had flowered along the banks of the Monongahela, and none knew him well. But before the evening was over, they, and with them money Master Morgan, were to be swept off their feet, and a $1 billion baby, the United States Steel Corporation, was to be conceived. It is perhaps unfortunate for the sake of history that no record of Charlie Schwab's speech at a dinner table was ever made. He repeated some parts of it at a later date during a similar meeting of Chicago bankers. And still later, when the government brought suit to dissolve the Steel Trust, he gave his own version from the witness stand of the remarks that stimulated Morgan into a frenzy of financial activity. It is probable, however, that it was a homely speech, somewhat ungrammatical, for the niceties of language never bothered Schwab, full of epigrams and threaded with wit. But aside from that, it had a galvanic force and effect upon the 5 billions of its estimated capital that was represented by the diners. After it was over and the gathering was still under his spell, although Schwab had talked for 90 minutes, Morgan led the orator to a recessed window where, the dangling legs from the high, uncomfortable seat, they talked for an hour or more. The magic of the Schwab personality had been turned on full force. But what was more important and lasting was a full-fledged, clear-cut program he laid down for the aggrandizement of steel. Many other men had tried to interest Morgan in slapping together a steel trust after the pattern of the biscuit, wire and hoop, sugar, rubber, and whiskey and oil or chewing gum combinations. John W. Gates, a gambler, had urged it, but Morgan distrusted him. The Moore boys, Bill and Jim, Chicago stock jobbers, who had glued together a match trust and a cracker corporation, had urged it and failed. Edward H. Gary, the sanctimonious country lawyer, wanted to foster it, but he wasn't big enough to be impressive. Until Schwab's eloquence took J.P. Morgan to the new heights from which he could visualize the solid results of the most daring financial undertaking ever conceived. The project was regarded as a delirious dream of easy money crackpots. The financial magnetism that began a generation ago to attract thousands of small and sometimes inefficiently managed companies into large and competition-crushing combinations, had become operative in the steel world through the devices of their jovial business pirate, John W. Gates. Gates had already formed the American Steel and Wire Company out of a chain of small concerns, and together with Morgan had created the Federal Steel Company. The National Tube and American Bridge Companies were two more Morgan concerns, and the Moore brothers had forsaken the match and cookie business to form the American group Tin Plate, Steel Hoop, Sheet Steel, and National Steel Company. But by the side of Andrew Carnegie's gigantic vertical trust, a trust owned and operated by 53 partners, those other combinations were picayune. They might combine to their heart's content, but the whole lot of them couldn't make a dent in the Carnegie organization, and Morgan knew it. The eccentric old Scot knew it, too. From the magnificent heights of Skibo Castle, he had viewed, first with amusement and then with resentment, the attempts of Morgan's smaller companies to cut into his business. When the attempts became too bold, Carnegie's temper was translated into anger and retaliation. He decided to duplicate every mill owned by his rivals. Hitherto, he had been interested in wire, pipes, hoops, or sheet. Instead, he was content to sell such companies with raw steel and let them work it into whatever shape they wanted. Now, with Schwab as his chief and able lieutenant, he planned to drive his enemies to the wall. So it was with the speech of Charles M. Schwab, Morgan saw the answer to his problem of combination. A trust without the Carnegie giant of them all would be no trust at all. A plum pudding, as one writer said, without the plums. Schwab's speech on the night of December 12, 1900, undoubtedly carried the inference. Dude, you're really distracting. Though not the pledge, that the vast Carnegie enterprise could be brought under the Morgan tent. He talked of the world future for steel, of reorganization for efficiency, of specialization, of the scrapping of unsuccessful mills, and concentration of effort on the flourishing properties, and of economies in. What's even on my desk before you be looking, dude? The ore traffic, of economies in the overhead and administrative departments, of capturing foreign markets. More than that, he told the buccaneers among them were inlaid. You gotta get out. He's biting my charger. I need that, dude. I just bought that charger, dude. You cannot bite my charger, dude. I just bought that. Okay, he's gone. I'm gonna cross both my legs now. He cannot get back up here. Goodness gracious. Okay, let's keep reading. More than that, he told the buccaneers among them wherein lay the areas of their customary piracy. Their purposes, he inferred, had been to create monopolies, raise prices, and pay themselves fat dividends out of privilege. Schwab condemned the system in his heartiest manner. The short-sightedness of such a policy, he told his hearers, lay in the fact that it is restricted to the market in an era where everything cried for expansion. By cheapening the cost of steel, he argued an ever-expanding market would be created. More uses for steel would be devised, and a goodly portion of the world trade could be captured. Actually, though he did not know it, Schwab was an apostle of the modern mass production. So the dinner at the University Club came to an end. Morgan went home to think about Schwab's rosy predictions. Schwab went back to Pittsburgh to run the steel business for Andrew Carnegie, while Gary and the rest went back to their stock takers to fiddle around in anticipation of the next move. It was not long coming. It took Morgan about 1 week to digest the feast of reason Schwab had placed before him. When he assured himself that no financial indigestion was to result, he sent for Schwab and found the young man rather coy. Mr. Carnegie, Schwab indicated, might not like it if he found his trusted company president had been flirting with the emperor of Wall Street, the street upon which Carnegie had resolved never to tread. Then it was suggested by John W. Gates, the go-between, that if Schwab happened to be in the Bellevue Hotel in Philadelphia, J.P. Morgan might also happen to be there. When Schwab arrived, however, Morgan was inconveniently ill at his New York home, and so, on the elder man's pressing invitation, Schwab went to New York and presented himself at the door of the financier's library. Now, certain economic historians have professed the belief that from the beginning to an end of the drama, the stage was set by Andrew Carnegie, that the famous speech, the Sunday night conference between Schwab and the money king, were events arranged by the candy Scott. The truth is exactly opposite. When Schwab was called in to consummate the deal, he didn't even know whether the little boss, as Andrew was called, would be so much as listen to an offer to sell, particularly to a group of men whom Andrew regarded as being endowed with something less than holiness. But Schwab did take into the conference with him, in his own handwriting, 6 sheets of copperplate figures representing to his mind the physical worth and potential earning capacity of every steel company he regarded as an essential star in the new mental firmament. Four men pondered over these figures all night. The chief, of course, was Morgan, steadfast in his belief in the divine right of money. With him was an aristocratic partner, Robert Bacon, a scholar and a gentleman. The third was John W. Gates, whom Morgan scorned as a gambler and used as a tool. The fourth was Schwab, who knew more about the process of making and selling steel than any whole group of men living. Throughout the conference, the Pittsburghers' figures were never questioned. If he said a company was worth so much, then it was worth that much and no more. He was insistent upon including in the combination only those concerns he nominated. He had conceived a corporation of which there would be no duplication, not even to satisfy the greed of friends who wanted to unload their companies upon the broad Morgan shoulders. Thus he left out by design a number of the larger concerns upon which the walruses and the carpenters of Wall Street had cast hungry eyes. When dawn came, Morgan rose and straightened his back. Only one question remained. Do you think you could persuade Andrew Carnegie to sell? He asked. I can try, said Schwab. If you can get him to sell, I will undertake the matter, said Morgan. So far, so good. But would Carnegie sell? How much would he demand? Schwab thought about $320 million. What would he take in payment? Common or preferred stocks, bonds, cash. Nobody could raise $1/3 billion in cash. There was a golf game in January on this on the frost-cracking heath of the St. Andrews Links in Westchester, with Andrew bundled up in sweaters against the cold, and Charlie talking volubly, as usual, to keep his spirits up. But no word of business was mentioned until the pair sat down in the cozy warmth of the Carnegie cottage hard by. Then, with the same persuasiveness that had hypnotized 80 millionaires at the University Club, Schwab poured out the glittering promises of retirement and comfort, of untold means to satisfy the old man's social caprices. Carnegie capitulated, wrote a figure on a slip of paper, handed it to Schwab, and said, "All right, that's what we'll sell for." The figure was approximately $400 million and was reached by taking the $320 million mentioned by Schwab as a basic figure and adding $80 million to represent the increased capital value over the previous 2 years. Later, on the deck of the transatlantic liner, the Scotsman said ruefully to Morgan, "I wish I'd asked you for $100 million more." "If you had asked for it, you'd have gotten it," Morgan told him cheerfully. The 38-year-old Schwab had his reward. He was made president of the new corporation and remained in control until 1930. This dramatic story of big business was included in this book because it is a perfect illustration of the method by which desire can be transmuted into its physical equivalent. I imagine some readers will question the statement that a mere intangible desire can be converted into its physical equivalent. Doubtless, some will say, you cannot convert nothing into something. The answer in the story of the United States Steel, the giant organization, was created in the mind of one man. The plan by which the organization was provided with the steel mills that gave it financial stability was created in the mind of the same man. His faith, his desire, his imagination, his persistence were the real ingredients that went into the United States Steel. The steel mills and mechanical equipment acquired by the corporation after it had been brought into the legal existence were incidental, but careful analysis will disclose the fact that it appraised value of the properties acquired by the corporation increased in value by an estimated $600 million by the mere transaction that consolidated them under one management. In other words, Charles M. Schwab's idea, plus the faith which he conveyed in his minds of J.P. Morgan and the others, was marketed for a profit of approximately $600 million, not an insignificant sum for a single idea. What happened to some of the people who took their share of the millions of dollars of profit made by the transaction is a matter which we are not now concerned. The important feature of the astounding achievement is that it serves as an unquestionable evidence of the soundness of the philosophy described in this book. Moreover, the practicality of the philosophy has been established by the fact that the United States Steel Corporation prospered. It became one of the richest and most powerful corporations in America, employing thousands of people, developing new uses for steel and opening new markets, thus providing more than $600 million in profit with the Schwab idea produced was earned. Riches began in form of thought. The amount is limited only by the person whose mind and thought is put into motion. Faith removes limitation. Remember this when you're ready to bargain with life for whatever it is that you ask as your price for having passed this way. Remember also that the man who created the United States Steel Corporation was practically unknown at the time. He was merely Andrew Carnegie's Man Friday, until he gave birth to this famous idea, and after that, he quickly rose to a position of power, fame, and riches. Now for another example of how faith is an idea, and an idea made millions for one man, and through it helped countless others increase their wealth. Sir John Templeton is a man with great faith in his talent to make sound and profitable investments. Templeton was better than most people at investing money because people often made investments based on emotion and ignorance and not common sense. He felt that by using his skill in investing, he could not only provide a needed service to the small investor, but make a good deal of money for himself as well. To accomplish this, he started a group of mutual funds to manage other people's money. This was a pioneer project as mutual funds were a relatively new concept at the time. Templeton honed that concept into what it is today. He reminisced that at the Templeton Growth Fund's first annual meeting, the participants consisted of John Templeton, one part-time employee, and one shareholder. We held the meeting in the dining room of a retired General Foods executive to save money. The Templeton Funds now have more than 6,000 employees worldwide and $36 billion in assets. Driving that growth is the Templeton Group's well-earned reputation as a premier fund group for investing. A $10,000 investment in the Templeton Growth Fund 40 years ago is worth $3 million today. By the time he retired and sold the Templeton Group fund interest in 1992, estimated at $400 million, John Templeton estimated that he had helped 1 million people make money in addition to his own success. Goodness gracious. Hey, and this is in fat letters, so y'all can read it first. They gave a whole page to the statement. There are no limitations to the mind except those we acknowledge. Both poverty and riches are the offspring of thought. And chat, that is the end of chapter 3. Goodness gracious, I'm not gonna lie, that chapter was pretty long and I started reading kind of fast. I did not realize this chapter was 36 pages. I did not realize this chapter was 36 pages long. Oh man, that's pretty funny. I didn't realize that was that long when I read it the first time. Reading this out loud is a lot more challenging than reading this in my head. Okay, but we do have a couple of things we want to talk about really quickly. I promise I will read this better as we continue to read. I know how long this chapter is now. Next time, for now on, I'm gonna also check how long these chapters are. So I gain a good pace from the beginning from now on. But I promise I will not speed run these last pages again. You know, I just did not realize how long that was. That took 42 minutes. Oh man, that's crazy. Okay. Okay, so chapter 3, chat. So chapter 3 was faith, visualizing, and believing in the attainment of a desire, right? And there's really one big part, and I underlined it for a reason. I feel like this is I feel like this is an extremely valuable piece, more valuable than even the story about the dude that we just read about. And that's why I underlined it. I feel like it's even more valuable than the story, the 20-page story we just read. Okay, so I'm gonna grab this from page 56 of Think and Grow Rich. It's the story that involved Abraham Lincoln. I would be right there. Excuse me. Abraham Lincoln was a failure at everything he tried until he was well past the age of 40. He was a Mr. Nobody from nowhere until a great experience came into his life. Aroused by sleeping genius within his heart and brain, gave the world of one of his truly great men. That experience was mixed with the emotions of sorrow and love. It came to him through Anne Rutledge, the only woman he ever truly loved. It is a known fact that the emotion of love is closely akin to the state of mind known as faith. Love comes very near to translating one's thoughts, impulses into a spiritual equivalent. During his research, the author discovered from the analysis of the work and achievements of hundreds of men of outstanding accomplishment that there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. This is a great sentence to remember. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. I want y'all to remember this statement. There was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. I really want that to drive into your mind. Love brought these things into reality. We can read this book as much as we want to. We can read this book as much, we can read every single one of these pages as much as we want to, right? Read through all these steps as much as we want to. But if you're missing the one important element to this whole thing, then none of this is gonna work. that there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. Now, it doesn't have to be a woman's love, but love is a driving factor behind everything. And I want you to remember this statement, that there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. And this book is Think and Grow Rich, the men version. There is also a woman version as well. And but we're going to read this. We're going to read the statement again one more time. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. I can clock down every single man I ever met in my life. Every single man I ever met in my life that had a driving factor. They truly wanted to do something out of love for their partner because they felt love from their partner. So their love drove them to accomplish these things. That there was the influence of a woman's love behind nearly every one of them. I want you to remember this statement, regardless of your man or female, that there was the influence of love behind nearly every one of them. We can just take out the whole woman's love if you don't agree with that statement. That there was the influence of love behind every single one of them. Please remember the statement. This is the most valuable statement from this entire book that we read so far. If there is no love, then there will be no fruit. If there is no love, then there will be no fruit. There will be no fruit. Even the supervillains have love for somebody. Even the supervillains in this world that we know of, that we hear about the supervillains, they did it out of love for somebody or something. They did it out of the vengeance, the love they had for the people that were taken from them, right? They did it out of love, and that's what drove them. That is the driving factor behind all the things that happen here. That is a driving factor behind everything that happens here. If it ain't there, then it ain't happening. If it ain't there, it ain't happening. You can look to any person in this world that's ever done anything. Even the villains of this world loved somebody. Even the villains of this world did it for love of somebody. Everything that happens is from love. If you don't want to listen to a single one of these reads ever again, you don't need to, because this statement is the answer. That there was love behind everything that's ever happened. Every special thing that is impractical, everything that's ever, what's up, Alex, Alexa's guy, that everything that's ever happened because somebody loved somebody else and they wanted to do this for somebody. Even the villains of this world, it is. Even the villains, all the supervillains, all the heroes, all the people, anybody that's ever accomplished anything, they accomplished it because they loved somebody. They had some love for somebody or something, and they wanted to accomplish a goal for that thing. It can even be yourself, but there's love, and without that love, nothing's gonna happen. And if that's all you take from this read, and welcome back. If that's all you take from this read, then that is the most important thing from this book. You don't have to read. You don't have to listen to nothing else from this book, because if you don't have love in this thing, then it ain't gonna happen anyways. You know, and you don't have to believe me, but if you think to anything that you've ever accomplished, there was somebody you thought about accomplishing this for, even if it was for yourself, even if it was out of love for yourself, it still happened out of love. If you don't have that element right there, it ain't gonna happen. And that's facts, Nana. Love is a glue that holds everything together. You know, if it ain't there, it ain't gonna happen. So, if you don't want to hear nothing else from this book, if you don't want to listen to the 36-page chapter of this tomorrow or Wednesday, or do the exercises on Thursday and Friday, right? Then you don't have to, because this is the most important statement from this entire book. This is the most important statement that you'll ever read. This is the most important thing. This is why I underlined it as I was reading it, because this is the most important thing. As a person who has accomplished things that other people can't explain, I know for a fact that when somebody throws this right in front of your face, you just feel it, and you know it's the truth. You don't got to question that it's the truth. You know, you don't have to question that this is the truth. You feel me? You don't have to question this truth. You know, so yes. Without that one element, it don't matter what else you got in there. It ain't gonna happen. And if it does happen, we talked about this before. Yeah, God gotta do something for you, usually one time, that doesn't have love. But then it'll have some aftermath effect that makes you not want to go back to do that again. Right? It's just a one-time lesson thing, because God is an unconditional loving God, right? So God will bless you with something that you may not have done out of love, probably one time. right? But God won't do it again because he loves you. God doesn't want to hurt you multiple times, right? Because God knows it's going to hurt when you realize that you didn't do it out of love and it bites you in the butt, right? So you're not going to do it for you multiple times. You're going to do it for you one time, right? Because God loves you. You feel me? So you might be able to do something not out of love one time. You probably think of the one time in your life where you're able to do it, but you tried it every other time and it didn't work, did it? It didn't. And even if you thought it worked, you missed a spot there, and it was like, oh, but I was thinking about this and this and this. Even if you're just loving yourself, the love has to exist, or it will not happen. You only get one time to do something not out of love, and it's only for a lesson. It's only for the lesson. You feel me? So if you don't ever want to read this book or listen to another one of these reads ever again, you don't got to, because the only thing you need to know from this book right here is that statement right there. Is that statement right there, that there was influence of a woman's love behind nearly every single one of them. And it don't even got to be a woman's love, but it has to be love. It has to be some kind of love. If there is no love, if you're trying to do something out of spite, then it ain't gonna work. And it may work that one time, but it won't work again. You know? So, you feel me? Because God don't want to hurt you multiple times. Because God knows that it's gonna hurt you in the end if you do something out of spite. You feel me? So it may work that one time, but it's just for the lesson, right? If you miss a lesson, God usually doesn't want to teach you the same lesson multiple times. You feel me? You know, because God is unconditionally loving. You feel me? So he doesn't want you to be punished multiple times, right? You may get that one. You may get that punishment that one time, but you know, you feel me? So, you know, so remember, if you want to accomplish anything great, anything that's going to last, there has to be some form of love in there. There has to be. Even if it's love for yourself, there has to be some form of love in there if you want it to last. Listen to my words clearly. If you want it to last, there has to be some kind of love in there. It ain't going to last if there ain't no love. The big L's, baby. Turns into W's. Lasting love turns into W's. Lasting love goes from 2 L's to a W. If you want it to last, you need to love, baby. 2 W's. W. Oh man, it's funny. Oh man, it's funny. But you feel me? And that was the most important part from this entire read right here. This whole 36-page chapter right here. That's the most important part. You know, because yeah, you feel me? Because even supervillains love something. They're doing it for something. They just don't know. Even a supervillain who's doing some supervillain stuff. You feel me? They're doing it out of love for something. You feel me? It could be the love of hate. But it's love with something. You feel me? It's love with something, you know. And you don't it's pretty funny if you think about it. But you feel me? It's loving something. It's loving of something, right? If you really think about it for a brief moment, it's loving of something. So that is the first day of this week's Think and Grow Rich read. I promise I'm gonna read this rest of the chapter better the next time. I did not realize it was 36 pages. I started rushing because I was like, I did not expect to spend an hour doing this. You know, I didn't expect to spend an hour reading that chapter, you know, so, but I know now. Carve more time. Carve more time for this chapter right here. Excuse me. But I hope you enjoyed, you know, and I'm gonna see you tomorrow because I'm about to go get me a workout in. It's pretty late. Oh, you want to say the outro because you've been waiting this whole time? You ready? Okay, you ready? Let's say the outro. let's say the outro. Okay, fresh bath, baby, huh? We all got that limitless core, baby. I appreciate you. I might even love you, but I'm for sure glad you woke up today. Thank you for waking up. Thank you for going another day. I appreciate you. You know, I appreciate you. And I also appreciate your presence as always. It's the most valuable thing you can give me. So you have a good one, and I'm going to see you next time. Peace. Oh, he just gave you a kiss through the camera. A kiss through my cheek.